What's up, everybody? It's Lamar
and Angela,
and we are here today to talk about the process of renting a home in Mexico. Now, for a lot of people who are moving to Mexico, you're more than likely going to be moving with just you, your suitcases, and maybe a couple little other things that you might bring with you on the journey.
Right. Yeah.
That was not our ministry.
No, not at all.
We came to Mexico with basically our 2 kids, our 3 kids really, and 2 dogs and a lot of our belongings that we brought from the States.
And not furniture, but things that we cherish, things that we wanted here that we find joy in from the standpoint of our hobbies. So most of the things we brought with us are hobby stuff. And a few things, like we had a couple of new televisions in the house that we were like, no, we're going to bring those to Mexico.
Right. We also brought some beloved, cherished items that letters from my late mother that she hand wrote in college, that she wrote for me. Other really treasured memento things that absolutely, positively, I will not be getting rid of.
Right.
So in looking for a home, since we are essentially a family of 5, our space needs are going to be different. It's going to be a lot different. When you see people talking about, you can move to Mexico and have a space for $300.
Yeah, that's for one person.
That's for one person.
That's for one person.
And I've even seen other places that say you can, and it's possible, you can find a place to rent for $100 or $150 or something in the really low range. For a family of 5?
No, that's not going to work.
No. So we want to talk today about the process of renting a home, finding a home for a family, and then just a little bit of that process, what that involves.
Correct.
It is a whole new world out there, y'all. It's a whole... Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore.
No.
Because it's different. The process of renting a home is different when moving to Mexico. First and foremost, just the process of finding a home is going to be a lot different. In the States, we're used to perhaps finding or working with a realtor, or some people maybe even look on Craigslist or maybe looking the local classifieds. The local classifieds and maybe even Craigslist works here too, but the process of working with realtors is a whole lot different.
Right, because you have multiple agents actually listing the home. As you go through the searches, you will see the same home over and over again. I'm like, I just looked at that one, but it's listed by someone else.
Right, so you may very well be looking at that same property being listed by 10, 15 different agents, all working to try to list or working to either sell or rent that home.
Right.
So keeping track of who you're talking to is a very important thing to realize which agent I'm dealing with when trying to rent a home.
Right.
The second thing that is important to recognize as a difference here is what's required and what the general process is. Now, usually when we've rented in homes in the past in Mexico, or rather in the United States, we come to it with the expectation that there are certain things that are covered and certain things that are expected that the landlord will fix.
Correct.
And other things that you expect as the tenant you are responsible for. Here in Mexico, it's a little bit different because there are times that you're on your own in terms of repairs and things that are done to the house.
Right.
You may have a landlord that agrees to repair some items, but for the most part, it appears that that's kind of rare.
Right.
Also, more than likely, when you see a place in the United States and the house is available for rent, it's usually shown in a ready state, like ready, set, go. It's ready to rent. If the place is vacant, it's usually cleaned up, it's usually painted, it's usually, all of those things are usually done before it's even shown.
Right. Here in Mexico, they are actually telling you when you come to look at the rental property that they're actively right now fixing things in the house that need to be repaired. And if you notice anything that needs to be repaired, let the landlord know so that they can repair it before you sign the lease. And then have an agreement with the landlord to fix anything else within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, it's on you to fix or to live with.
Yeah. So when you come to an apartment or a home that you see that is about to be rented or is in the process of being rented, many times you will work up an agreement with the landlord prior to you taking possession, that, like in the form of fixing or buying a house, that you're going to fix this, you're going to replace that, this is going to be done, that's going to be done. A whole laundry list of items are enumerated first before you sign the lease. And at the time that you sign the lease, it's expected that that laundry list of items has been taken care of.
Right. So
that's a difference.
Yeah, you do the walkthrough, you inspect, and you make sure that those things have been taken care of.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that's different is the process of securing the house. Now, here in Queretaro, during the season of the summer, what we would consider our summer from June to, say, August, that's the hot season. Why? Because just like in the United States, that's a lot of times where families are moving and making their transition.
Right.
Kids are out of school. You kind of want to get all that done and get your home selected and situated before the kids go back to school in the fall. So the housing market can really pick up depending upon the time of year that you're actually looking at houses.
Right.
So for families, this June to August time frame would be very critical for you to find a house that you like. And if you find something, you better go ahead and snap up on it.
Right. And then you would have to get into an agreement with the landlord and actually give him a deposit, or the agent a deposit, to take it off the market. Make sure you get something in writing from them that it can be refunded, though.
Right.
Make sure you take care of that prior to you actually giving that money.
Now, that deposit is usually just a hold to take the home off the market.
Right.
That's kind of like what we would probably call in the States an earnest money deposit.
Right.
To show the owner that you're very serious about going forward with the process of renting that home, and you, as you're getting your paperwork together and getting those things in order, are saying to the owner, hey, take this home off the market. Here is a deposit that I'm going to give you. Usually it's non-refundable.
Right.
That if in the event that I don't want to carry through with this house, you know,
right.
that won't go. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that this is a house that you really do want to go forward with, then that's usually used as and looked at as a non-refundable deposit.
Right, but that deposit also goes towards your first and last month's rent.
Correct. The other thing that we've noticed is a big difference, huge difference in the rental process from the States to here is sometimes when I've rented apartments in the past, they have done a background check, or a credit check is usually what has been done.
Right.
Again, we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So what is required is usually an aval, or what's called a poliza jurídica. And that's basically almost like an insurance policy for the landlord that you will pay your rent, that they've investigated you, they've done a background check, they've verified your employment or verified your source of income, and they verified your references, and they feel confident to offer a policy that will protect the landlord should you just decide that you're just going to up and not pay the rent or roll out before the lease is up.
Right.
The other way to get around that is to have a Mexican land-owning person here in Mexico sign for you to pretty much vouch for you, saying that if he doesn't pay his rent, I got his back, I'll pay it for him.
A co-signer.
Right. Now, I don't know if I would be willing to do that, and and being new here in Mexico, we don't necessarily have that many people who would be able to, you know, put themselves on the line for us. So sometimes getting the Polizza Jurídica is just an easier route.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing that is different in the process is the Polizza Jurídica requires a fee. The fee is usually a portion of the rent, and it could be anywhere between 10 to 15% of the rent. So not only would you pay a deposit to hold the home and take the home off the market, but you would also be expected to pay the Polizza Jurídica amount as well. Now that is a policy that is, or a firm that is completely selected by the owner.
Right.
It's whoever the owner feels comfortable with. If you want to negotiate with the owner that you feel comfortable working with a particular company, that's completely up to the owner's discretion to decide whether they want to use your Polizza Jurídica firm. But that's a process that usually is relatively easy to complete if you have all of your paperwork and ducks in a row. And usually you can have an answer back within 48 to 72 hours on being approved.
Right.
Once you're approved for your Polizza Jurídica, the Polizza Jurídica company will complete the contract, will make up the whole rental agreement. 9 times out of 10, it's in Spanish.
Right.
So be careful in that regard.
Right. And there's a charge if you want it translated into English.
Right. So if you want that contract available in English, they do charge you for that. But contracts, in order to be valid in Mexico, need to be in Spanish. So that's something to remember and look out for. You want to make sure that those numbers in there are correct, that it's what you agreed upon. And also be careful for this one other little thing. One of the ways that foreigners are introduced to this not being Kansas is that there is often there are automatic increases built in to your lease upon renewal. So if in the course of your renting a home, in the first year your rent is as what you agreed upon, but sometimes there can be a clause in your lease saying there's an automatic increase every year that you stay there.
Correct. And a lot of times it's like anywhere between 7 to 10%.
Yikes! With the dollar changing and fluctuating, that can be a huge change to your bottom line, especially if you're living on a fixed income.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you check to see if there's an automatic increase in your rental agreement so that you can be able to take care of that or be prepared.
Right.
Another thing that you might want to look out for is just the difference in the fluctuating peso to dollar.
Right.
That makes a huge difference for persons coming to Mexico if they think that, oh, this rent is cheap, this is really great, I can definitely afford this on my fixed income, and then the dollar begins to drop. The amount that you actually pay in pesos remains the same. But
what's taken out of your bank account goes up.
Right. So you want to make sure that you take that into consideration when you're looking at, is this rent affordable and is it in my budget to be able to pay? Because, whoo, child.
Another thing is, once you rent a house and you're looking at utilities, one of the big things here is that the federal government here took ownership of the electric utilities here. Now, they do subsidize up to a point, but once you hit believe it's on average of 5,000 pesos or something like that, they double your costs. And when you hit that, it's hard to get back down. So one of the things you might be wanting to look for is solar panels to be installed on a home that you're renting. That way it defrays the cost. As a matter of fact, it'll bring it down, way down. So that and water. Water is usually pretty good as far as the cost. Internet is quite low, much less than what we paid in the States.
Much less.
So that more than likely won't fluctuate as much as what your rent is. One of the things that you may want to do is negotiate with the owner to see if you can get a multi-year contract without any escalations in the rental costs and see if they'll go for it.
Right. The other thing is to remember in terms of utilities is most times electricity is paid every 2 months.
Right.
And water could be paid every month if you don't already have those utilities built into your rental costs.
Right.
Those are items that you would be expected to pay on your own. Water and most of the time utilities in general are in the owner's name,
Right.
not in your name.
The only thing that you would have control over and you have to call in is liquid propane. Most houses here have liquid propane tanks installed on the roof, and that is what you use for your hot water heaters and for cooking. And usually, if you're at normal usage for a family of 5, it would probably be every couple of months that you would have to get that tank refilled once it gets down to 10 to 20%.
Right. And that just really depends on how much hot water you use, how much you like to cook with the actual stove, or how much you actually cook in the oven. It really just depends on what your family's use is.
Yeah.
You mentioned one thing that I definitely want to bring up in terms of the utilities is make sure you ask the owner prior to moving into the home or the apartment for a copy of their utility bills to see what were the previous tenants paying,
Right.
and just to get a general sense and a general feel for what your utilities might be. Because in the event that the previous tenants went way over what the utilities normally were, it takes a while for that to reset
Right.
itself and get back down to your normal usage. So the prior tenant could have been balling out of control and using all the electricity.
Right.
But if you are one of those persons that very rarely use electricity like that, or don't use or don't turn on things that often, or very conscientious and frugal about your utility use, then you might want to be sure that you're not being dinged for someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So after you have come to an agreement, you have found the place, you've locked and loaded on a place, you're looking at moving in, and on move-in day is when you are expected to come with the first month's rent and perhaps even the balance of your polizza jurídica, so that you would be able to move in and take possession of the home. Normally, if there are any additional repairs that need to be done, or if you notice some things that are done that weren't really taken care of, or that they need some tweaking or things like that, within that first, if you have a good landlord, that first couple of weeks time frame, the landlord should be able to work with you to make sure that all of those needs are addressed. But at the time that you sign the lease agreement, do a walkthrough, just like you would if you were buying a home. Do a walkthrough to make sure that all of those items that were enumerated previously have been taken care of.
Right.
Some landlords would like you to pay them in cash.
Yeah, they want to do the under the table thing so that they can avoid paying taxes.
I mean, welcome to welcome to non-Kansas, Toto.
And some say that it's possibly because of corruption in banks, but I more think that it's the former, and that they want to be paid under the table so that they can keep all the money.
Now, yes, can they ask for that? Absolutely. It makes it a little difficult for you,
Right.
perhaps, if you are a family that has a rather large home. The amount that you'll be pulling out in cash can be quite substantial. So,
And it makes it dangerous.
yeah, to try to go to the ATM to pull out a wad of cash at the beginning of or at the end of every month so that you'll be ready to pay your rent on time is not all that pleasant and not all that fun, to be honest with you.
Right.
Sometimes there are some landlords who will or that have Mexican bank accounts and let you transfer money or pay them electronically woohoo, that's great if
Sure.
you can find one of those. But
Yeah.
just be on the lookout that there might be some landlords that you encounter that want you to pay them and pay their rent in cash, which means they'll be coming to the house every month to come pick up their money.
Money. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure will.
The other thing that is different, I'll say, different about living in Mexico is the notion that, how shall I say, landlords can charge what they want.
Yeah.
There's no MLS system here in Mexico. So it's really up to the discretion of whoever is leasing the home or is renting out their home as to what they'll charge. Now that can vary greatly. It can vary greatly. And sometimes it's been our experience,
Yeah.
just in our humble opinion,
Yeah.
that we can get gringoed as Americans if you didn't do your homework to know how much rents are in those areas.
Because you have to do your own comparables.
Right. So just, I would inquire if you have a Mexican friend who
Sure.
speaks fluent Spanish, just in case your Spanish isn't fluent. If you have someone that you know that can make the call for you to inquire about what the rent is and get that locked down as to, okay, that's how much the rent is, that would be a better situation for you, because I've seen instances where the rent is one thing, but then when they see a foreigner coming, and this has nothing to do with race necessarily, but it's definitely a foreigner thing.
Because they believe that if you're coming to Mexico that you can afford it, that you have money.
Right. And so suddenly the price goes up.
Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a plug here. If you come, you, as Angela said, have a friend that speaks fluent Spanish or has an idea, but you talk to somebody from who we dealt with in House Hunters Queretaro with Monica and Allie.
Shouts out to Bonnie and Allie.
Yeah, and they help a great deal, and they know this environment, they know these areas here,
And they know what should be
right,
the comparable rents for certain areas.
right, exactly.
Right. So, Mike, make sure that you are working with a reputable realtor. One other thing that's different about renting in Mexico is that anybody can be a realtor
Right.
with no certification, with no training, with no nothing. Okay, I could pop up one day and say I'm a realtor, and lo and behold, you can rent out homes. So there's really no process for a standardized system like in the United States, where we have the National Realtors Association.
Right.
And to be able to be considered a realtor, you have to have passed some certifications for your state and be licensed and all those kinds of things. There's no license like that here.
Right.
So be aware that the person that you're speaking to, in terms of and assuming has a professional knowledge of the area, may or may not have that kind of knowledge. So be careful.
Yes, be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw something recently on another person's,
Oh yeah.
and it was shameful. It was shameful what these agents were trying to pull and what they did. So you have to be real careful who you're dealing with. This is why you need, you need someone. If you're coming here new to Mexico, you need to find someone who can be helpful, who is wanting to make sure your home rental or purchase experience is a legal and uneventful in a negative way experience.
Yeah.
That's why us finding and working with Allie of House Hunters Queretaro made a big difference.
Right. It does. It definitely makes a big difference in terms of your experience and who the person you are looking for. But again, realize that you could be working with any number of realtors.
Yes.
So just be on the lookout for that. One thing that I wanted to mention in terms of the money that's charged. Now, people say that when foreigners move to Mexico, that we cause the prices to go up in areas.
That's a what came first, the chicken or the egg?
I want to kind of push back against that just a
Yes.
little bit, because while I understand gentrification and I understand that very well, being from the Washington D.C., once former chocolate city,
Yeah.
but what I'm noticing here also is a great deal of, shall I say it? Greed.
Yes.
Greed on the part of some Mexican property owners that see dollar signs when they encounter a person who is foreign in coming to the country, because you will not find anyone coming to the Mexico and saying, oh, that house is only $1,000 for rent, I'll pay you $4,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that.
No one is doing that.
I mean,
what's happening is someone will come to Mexico, and the house is normally $500, or the apartment is normally $500. But when they see you, they say, "Oh, the house is now 900 Mexican pesos," or
Right.
The price suddenly goes up.
So,
And if you, as a foreigner, don't know that,
right.
that's not what they normally charge, and now you're being charged this, you don't know,
And you pay it, so that gives them license to say, well, you're driving the cost up. No, someone has to ask first. Yeah, we could say no, but if we're looking at the place and going, well, that's actually pretty reasonable compared to what I'm used to in the United States.
Correct.
So it's like, wow, that's a deal. But really, in Mexico, that's not a deal. You're
Right.
being fleeced. You're being bamboozled.
And what happens is they can get higher rents out of foreigners because we don't know any better. And that's what causes the price to go up. It's not foreigners necessarily driving the price up, because it would be welcome to us to pay what regular locals pay too.
Correct.
So that's the only pushback I wanted to offer on that.
Yeah.
Foreigners causing the price to go up
Nah.
conversation.
No, that I don't put any kind of stock to that at all, really.
Right. One other thing that we want to mention about a difference in renting versus renting in the States versus Mexico and the United States is appliances. Sometimes when you rent a home, appliances, the refrigerator, the stove, those are not included.
Correct. Sometimes, but a lot of times, the stove may be there, more often than maybe not, but it's the refrigerator and the washer and dryer
Right.
that aren't provided. And also, just a quick note, just out of our experience here, there are now devices small enough for helping with purifying water for your refrigerator. So you can drink the water that comes from the refrigerator. It's just that you would have to apply a device to the refrigerator. And I guess we can put that link in the description or down below so that you can, maybe pick up on that.
Yeah, Lamar did a great job in terms of rigging our refrigerator so that we can drink from the dispenser that is built into the refrigerator. Now, here's another thing that I want to mention about the refrigerator. When you're looking for a refrigerator in Mexico, in the States, normally you would find a refrigerator that has a water tube that you hook to your water source,
Right.
and it feeds the water in through the filtration system, and it supplies your water and even makes ice. Sometimes that's not the way the refrigerators work here. There are refrigerators that have water, but they're usually little canisters
inside the refrigerator
that you have to pour water in,
right,
to get water out, as opposed to it being from the automated or from the water source of the home.
Right, and it does not make ice from that either.
Right. So be careful when you're looking for a refrigerator, and you see the little ice maker or water dispenser on the front door of the refrigerator. Open that refrigerator door to see whether or not the water is being furnished from the water source of the home, or if you're going to be expected to pour water in to the little canister that's on the door. Another source, or another thing that I want to mention about renting a home in Mexico, is Facebook. Facebook can be a fantastic source for you to find community as well as to find a home to rent. There are many homes that are not advertised in traditional methods.
Right.
They don't have an MLS, and I think at this point in time, at the recording of this video, Mexico is trying to establish a formal multiple listing system, MLS system. But for the most part, it's the wild, wild west.
Right.
The way to find an apartment or to find a home is to walk the neighborhood,
Right.
to look up and see the sign that is posted in the window and give it a call to see if that house is still available for rent and how much. Many homes are not listed anywhere. And the only way that you'll find it is just happen to be out in the neighborhood. But another source of finding homes that you can look for in Mexico via the internet is Facebook.
Right.
You would be surprised that the number of landlords, the number of homeowners that rent their homes or even sell homes on Facebook. So don't be afraid to look there. Also, look in the area that you'll be moving to. 9 times out of 10, there's a group. There is some sort of group that goes with that community. In Queretaro, in San Miguel, in Merida, in Puebla, in all kinds of places in Mexico will have its own separate Facebook community for you to get plugged into. Start asking the questions. Which neighborhoods are safe for families? Which neighborhoods do you guys recommend? 9 times out of 10, that question has been asked ad nauseum.
And they keep an eye on who you can trust and who you shouldn't. Who are the ones that are not doing a great job as far as landlords and taking care of their tenants. And so they will also be a great resource to steer you in the right direction to find a good home to rent.
Getting plugged into those kinds of communities on Facebook is really good because you can find recommendations for plumbers, you can find recommendations for painters, you can find recommendations for childcare, you can find all kinds of recommendations, schools, all of those kinds of things are really great to use as a resource for you to move you and your family to Mexico. Also, Facebook has a really great way of connecting families in that many families are looking for activities for their kids. And if you get plugged into the right Facebook group, you will be able to make community and allow your children to be able to make friends with other families who are also looking to do the same.
Yes.
Once you've moved into your home, and it is now in your purview to take care of it and things like that. As with any home, you want to make sure you stay on top of repairs that need to be done. Try to alert the owner to anything that needs to be taken care of, because having had property in the States before,
right,
and knowing how it works in terms of having someone rent your home, you do kind of want to stay on top of maintenance issues and things of that nature and not allow things to fester and get to a broke down state that causes more money to be expended in the long run.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's all I can think of.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. That's pretty much all of it.
Okay, so we have a House Hunter series that we have covered so many houses. I think we've maybe at this point have visited 15 different homes that would be suitable for families to live in.
Yeah.
So check out our House Hunter series. Check it out in the link above here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. If you have found any value of it, we would love for you to join our family. We would love for you to
check that bell, so ding-a-ling-a-ling,
so you can get notified of any videos that we come up with and produce in the future for you. We're trying to give you content on our channel designed specifically for families moving to Mexico.
Exactly.
All right?
All right.
Bye.
See ya.